Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Gajaja Shodhar Shishi Mad His Divine Grace Bhai Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Gajaja Shodhar Shishi Mad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sri Narasimha Chaturdasi Maha Mahotsava Ki Jai The appearance day of Lord Narasimha Bhagavan Ki Prahlada Maharaj Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees All glories assembled devotees All glories assembled devotees All glories Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Krishna. Is this loud enough? Because I'm not going to put it right in my mouth. Is this loud enough? I'm getting hard of hearing. Bad eyes, bad ears. Bad. Okay. So Tasmin. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirya Nastu Preshambadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloka Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Shilpubharaki Jai. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the verse I chose today is 7th Canto, Chapter 4, Text 43. What we're going to be discussing today is the tension between the devotees and the demons. And the pastime of Lord Nrsingadev, you have the best of the demons. In fact, even Prahlada Maharaj confirmed that in his verse to his father, Suryavarya, the best of the demons, and Prahlada Maharaj is the best of the devotees. So what happens when the best of the demons and the best of the devotees meet? So we'll be discussing Prahlada Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu, and their meeting. Okay, but this is the verse which is Yudhisthira Maharaj asking about this pastime. So, Tasmin Mahabhagavate Mahabhage Mahatmani Hiranyakashipu Rajan Akarod Agham Atmaje Tasmin Mahabhagavate Mahabhage Mahatmani Hiranyakashipu Rajan Akarod Agamatmaje Tasmin Mahabhagavate Mahabhage Mahatmani Hiranyakashipu Rajan Akarod Agam Atmaje Tasmin Mahabhagavate Mahabhage Mahatmani Hiranyakashipu Rajan Akarod Agam Atmaje. Please chant. Mahabhagavate Mahabhage Mahatmani Hiranyakashipu Rajan Akarod Atmaje Tasmin Mahabhagavate Mahabhage Mahatmani Hiranyakashipu Rajan Akarod Agamatmaje. Anyone else? It's an easy verse. Tasmin Mahabhagavate Mahabhage Mahatmani Hiranyakashipu Rajan Akarod Agamatmaje. Tasmin, unto him, Mahabhagavate, an exalted devotee of the Lord, Mahabhage, most fortunate, Mahatmani, whose mind was very broad, Hiranyakashipu, the demon Hiranyakashipu, Rajan, O king, Akarot, performed, Agham, very great sin, Atmaje, to his own son. Translation and purport, Srila Prabhupada. My dear King Yudhisthira, the demon Hiranyakashipu tormented this exalted, fortunate devotee, although Prahlada was his own son. Purport. When a demon, like Hiranyakashipu, despite his elevated position due to severe austerities, begins to tease a devotee, he begins falling down. And the results of his austerities dwindle. One who oppresses a pure devotee loses all the results of his austerities, penances, and pious activities. Since Hiranyakashipu was now inclined to chastise his most exalted devotee's son, Prahlada Maharaj, his opulences began dwindling. So, Om Agyantimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unminitam Ninataismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashati Gaur Bhaktiparinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikapadrubhascha Kripa Sindhu Mevaja Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, today's class, what I'm going to do is there's reading of verses. What they say, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So, I just want to explain the class. What we're going to discuss, we're going to read a few verses to set the scene. It's Yudhisthira Maharaj's question. It's a great bewilderment. You'll see to Yudhisthira Maharaj, what's going on here? How could this happen? And of course, then there's Krishna's or Lord Vishnu's response in this pastime to what he's going to do about the situation. And then we're going to read, because I said that there's a tension in this material world. Just like Krishna explains in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's devotees and demons. And when we first hear the word demon, when you become a devotee, you think, well, what's a demon? Like pitchforks or something like that? So, those who are against, there's Sura and Asura, those who are godly and those who are ungodly. So the qualities of Prahlada Maharaj, because he's the super excellent devotee, and then you have with the qualities of Hiranyakashipu, he's a super excellent demon. He's the best demon there is. And Krishna's pastime, he's put the two of them together. And then he comes into the mix. But so what happens when these two very, very exemplary personalities on opposite ends of the spectrum of consciousness are forced because of their relationship as father and son, there has to be some interaction. So there's actually three different confrontations between Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada Maharaj, three different steps before Lord Nrsingadev finally makes his appearance. Now, I won't be speaking much at all about the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev and the pastimes, because I'm sure that will be covered this evening. I wanted to give a different kind of class. And then, if we have time, I wanted to speak about, because what comes up in this is fearfulness, which is one of the basic principles, if not the basic principles of material existence, is being fearful. And how one who's on the transcendental platform, one of the most significant qualities, they're completely fearless, and that comes out very clear in the pastimes of Prahlada Maharaj, how he was completely fearless in a situation where anyone else, even the greatest heroes, would be very fearful. So, Maharaj Yudhisthira, so Narada Muni speaking to him, he tells him about Prahlada Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu. And then Maharaj Yudhisthira said, O best of the saints among the demigods, O best of spiritual leaders, how did Hiranyakashipu give so much trouble to Prahlada Maharaj, the pure and exalted saint, although Prahlada was his own son? I wish to know about this subject from you. Text 45. A father and mother are always affectionate to their children. When the children are disobedient, the parents chastise them, not due to enmity, but only for the child's instruction and welfare. How did Hiranyakashipu, the father of Prahlada Maharaj chastised such a noble son. This is what I'm eager to know. Maharaj Yudhisthira further inquired, how is it possible, saying, how is it possible for a father to be so violent toward an exalted son who was obedient, well-behaved, and respectful to his father? It's one thing if someone becomes very upset. The son is disobedient and ill-behaved and disrespectful, right? Someone get very, very upset. But there was just the opposite. Oh, Brahmana set up. And earlier in this pastime, Hiranyakashipu, due to his great austerities, had gained control of the universe and is creating a lot of problems. And the demigods were actually, it says, except for Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, all the demigods were subservient to Hiranyakashipu. And even Narada Muni was offering prayers and so on, just kind of going along with it. But they're in great anxiety, so they're praying like anything to the Lord for help. And Lord Vishnu makes a statement here. He addresses the demigods. First, he tells them you should all be engaged in my devotional service, chanting and engaging in my devotional service. And then he says to them, this is text, chapter 4, text 27 and 28. 27 and 28. This is Lord Vishnu responding, explaining how he's going to get involved in this exchange between father and son, devotee and non-devotee. When one is envious of the demigods who represent the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the Vedas, which give all knowledge, of the cows, Brahmins, Vaishnavas, and religious principles, and ultimately of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. When Hiranyakashipu teases the great devotee Prahlada, his own son, who is peaceful and sober, and who has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakashipu immediately, despite the benedictions of Brahma. Because what happened, and we'll bring this up when we're discussing the qualities of Hiranyakashipu, but he took over the universe. He took over the universe and just turned everything upside down according to his demoniac wishes. And it was creating great difficulty. And he was harassing Vaishnavas, Brahmins, cows, demigods, anything good he was harassing. So you can imagine what a difficult situation had created for everyone like that. Was it even in the pastimes of Ravana? He had the different devatas subservient to him, and he was using Shani, Saturn, as his footrest. There's a whole pastime about Shani looking at him. But can you imagine that? You're so puffed up, you're sitting on your throne, you got a demigod as your footrest. Hare Krishna. Okay, so now to understand the devotee, Prahlada Maharaj. Now there's quite a few descriptions. What I've chosen here is the 4th chapter, text 31 through 34 and 36 through 42. And just listening to Prahlada Maharaj is the supermost excellent devotee. And there's a few purports where Prabhupada ends the purport with one line saying that. He's the best of devotees. And remember also, he's appearing as a child, just 5 years old. And these are all his qualities. Like that. So, text 31. The qualities of Prahlada Maharaj, the son of Hiranyakashipu, are described herewith. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having very good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. So these are all things we are aspiring for as devotees. He had full control of his senses and mind. Like the Supersoul, he was kind to every living entity and was the best friend of everyone. To respectable persons, he acted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older God brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on. Text 33, although Prahlada Maharaj was born in a family of Asuras, he himself was not an Asura, but a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Unlike the other Asuras, he was never envious of Vaishnavas. He was not agitated when put into danger, and he was neither directly nor indirectly interested in fruitive activities described in the Vedas. Indeed, he considered everything material to be useless, and therefore he was completely devoid of material desires. He always controlled his senses and life air, and being of steady intelligence and determination, he subdued all lusty desires. And everything we're saying here is just the opposite of Hiranyakashipu. So he was not a chip off the old block, as they say, right? My son's a chip off the old block. Nothing like that. So text 36. Text 34. O King, Prahlada Maharaj's good qualities are still glorified by learned saints and Vaishnavas. As all good qualities are always found existing in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they also exist forever in his devotee Prahlada Maharaj. Text 36 through 42. Who can list the innumerable transcendental qualities of Prahlada Maharaj? He had unflinching faith in Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, and unalloyed devotion to him. His attachment to Lord Krishna was natural because of his previous devotional service. Although his good qualities cannot be enumerated, they prove that he was a great soul, Mahatma. 37. From the very beginning of his childhood, Prahlada Maharaj was uninterested in childish playthings. Indeed, he gave them up altogether and remained silent and dull, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Since his mind was always affected by Krishna consciousness, he could not understand how the world goes on, being fully absorbed in activities of sense gratification. 38. Prahlada Maharaj was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Thus, being always embraced by the Lord, he did not know how his bodily necessities, such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, and talking, were automatically performed. 39. Because of advancement in Krishna consciousness, he sometimes cried, sometimes laughed, sometimes expressed jubilation, and sometimes sang loudly. And the purport Prabhupada says is because sometimes Krishna disappeared, and he was feeling great separation from Krishna. And then other times when he saw Krishna returning, he'd be in great jubilation and actually start dancing. She was actually seeing, a young child, he's actually seeing Krishna. He was in a young child body, but he was completely a pure devotee, completely in Krishna consciousness. So this is a level of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlada Maharaj would loudly call in full anxiety. He sometimes lost his shyness in jubilation and began dancing in ecstasy. And sometimes, being fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, he felt oneness and imitated the pastimes of the Lord. 41, sometimes feeling the touch of the Lord's lotus hands, he became spiritually jubilant and remained silent, his hair standing on end and tears gliding down from his half-closed eyes because of his love for the Lord. In the last verse, because of his association with perfect, unalloyed devotees who had nothing to do with anything material, Prahlada Maharaj constantly engaged in the service of the Lord's lotus feet. By seeing his bodily features, when he was in perfect ecstasy, persons very poor in spiritual understanding became purified. In other words, Prahlada Maharaj bestowed upon them transcendental bliss. And the purport Prabhupada says that's referring to the students. When he was preaching in his Gurukula, just seeing his qualities, they just became Krishna conscious. He's such an amazing devotee. I always wondered what his mother thought. Kayadru, what's her name? Kayadru? Yeah, it's just like, here's my baby shivering in ecstasy and crying. And did she actually understand what was going on? She heard the whole teaching and kind of forgot him. So I just, like that. So in contrast, we have a few qualities mentioned here of Hiranyakashipu. So, and that starts with chapter 3, text 1. And 10 and 11. So, Oops. Here we go. So Narada Muni said to Maharaj Yudhisthira, so just remember everything we just said about Prahlada Maharaj. Now here's his father. The demoniac king Hiranyakashipu wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age. This is text 1. The demoniac king Hiranyakashipu wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age and dwindling of the body. He wanted to gain all the yogic perfections like anima and lagima, to be deathless and to be the only king of the entire universe, including Brahmaloka. So it says that the demoniac, they always want Ishwaram Ham Bhogi. That's a demoniac mentality. It means I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. So he ratcheted it up as far as he could go. I am the big enjoyer and I'm the big controller in this universe. So, and then we skip to 10 and 11 in the same chapter. And what's happening here? Oh, he's saying this is his plan. This is his plan. The supreme person within this universe, Lord Brahma, has gotten his exalted post by dint of severe austerities, mystic power, and trance. Consequently, after creating the universe, he has become the most worshipful demigod within it. Since I am eternal and time is eternal, I shall endeavor for such austerity, mystic power, and trance for many, many births, and thus I shall occupy the same post occupied by Lord Brahma. So he said, if he did it, I can do it. I'm eternal. I can just, as long as it takes, I'm going to perform whatever austerities I can to become the big enjoyer and the big controller. By dint of my severe austerities, I shall reverse the results of pious and impious activities. That's quite a statement. Now, usually you perform something pious, you get a result. He wants to reverse that.
Why did he want to reverse? What does that mean?
There's no big explanation of the purport. He's a demon. He doesn't want to suffer for his sinful activities. I guess that he wants to cover his, you know what, because he's engaged in all kinds of sinful activities. He doesn't want to take any reaction for it. Which where? After executing severe austerities, people within this mature world are promoted to the heavenly planets, but Hiranyakashipu wanted them to be unhappy, suffering because of the diplomatic feelings of the demigods, even in the heavenly planets. So, in other words, the demigods in heaven, they should be enjoying, but he wanted to make them suffer. So what? They perform pious acts in heaven. Instead of getting a benefit, he wanted them to suffer. Right. The specific. The inverse is true. And, yeah.
Whatever sinful thing I'm doing, foolish thing, no reaction. Rather,
yeah.
I'm enjoying my thing.
Yeah. He's going to set the standard.
Just see those fools at the Hare Krishna temple doing all those pious acts. See how I'm enjoying. I read for others.
So I shall overturn all the established practices within this world. Even Dhruvaloka will be vanquished at the end of the millennium. Now that's the planet of Vaikuntha, and it doesn't get vanquished, but he said he's going to get vanquished. Therefore, what is the use of it? I shall prefer to remain in the position of Brahma. Okay. And chapter 4, text 13. This is more qualities of him a little bit later on. My dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong-smelling wines and liquors. Don't light a match near him. And therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities and mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. And then 19 and 20. In spite of achieving the power, these two verses are very instructive about this materialistic endeavors, because he pushed it as far as anyone could possibly push it. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. So this is the law of the material world, that as long as we're a servant of the senses, we'll never be happy because the senses are never satisfied. What is that verse? Katika, I'm a servant of my senses. Come on. Yeah, so that's it. So they're just, sometimes they're referred to as bad masters. They're never satisfied. They're never satisfied. So he was the greatest fool because he gave so much energy for trying to satisfy his senses, but it's described here, he was never satisfied. And that's very frustrating. People who sometimes work very, very hard, accumulate great wealth and power and position, and they're just not happy. That's very frustrating. You could surround yourself with everything, and then you wake up and one day and you just, I'm not happy. This is not the formula. So maybe that's why he drank a lot. Some people drink a lot because they try to drown to forget. So he's like that. And then 20, Hiranyakashipu thus passed a long time being very much proud of his opulences and transgressing the laws and regulations mentioned in the authoritative Shastra. He was therefore subjected to a curse by the 4 Kumaras who were great Brahmanas. So these are the two personalities, Prahlada Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, and by Krishna's arrangement, same family, father and son. So something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. So it's like the two worlds are about ready to collide. The world of Krishna consciousness and the world of un-Krishna consciousness. So, because it says, a devotee has no enemy. Just like that's the name of Maharaj Yudhisthira, one whose enemy, Ajata. Well, all devotees, Ajata Shatru. The enemy has never been born. In the sense that devotee never considers anyone an enemy. You just don't. A devotee sees everyone as a devotee or potential devotee, and so is very compassionate and kind, just like it was described about Prahlada Maharaj. Said he was just like the super soul, very, very kind to every single living entity. So for devotee, he doesn't see, this person's my enemy, but others will see devotees as an enemy. So in this particular pastime, I was reading it, and there's 3 different confrontations between Prahlada Maharaj and his father, Hiranyakashipu. So the first one, this is chapter 5, texts 3 and 4. Okay, so what's happened here is, Prahlada's a young boy, 5. At 5, you're supposed to go to Gurukula. So they sent him off, and their family guru, Shukacharya, has two sons, Amarka and Shanda, and he sent them off to school. So, kids come home from school, they want to know, did you learn anything today? What did you learn in school today? So, starting with text 3 and 4. Prahlada Maharaj certainly heard and recited the topics of politics and economics taught by the teachers, but he understood that political philosophy involves considering someone a friend and someone an enemy, and thus he did not like it. Text 4. My dear King Yudhisthira, once upon a time, the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, took his son Prahlada on his lap and very affectionately inquired, my dear son, please let me know what you think is the best of all subjects you have studied from your teachers. And, he was thinking, this is an easy question. He's going to say ABCs or, something like that. I don't know. He's 5 years old. What's he going to say? But Prahlada Maharaj, I'll read the translation. This is right off the bat, Prahlada Maharaj just opens the gates. Prahlada Maharaj replied, best of the Asuras. That's Suryavarya. King of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master. Now, he's not referring to Amarka and Shanda. Any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there's no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is not what Hiranyakashipu wanted to hear. So his reaction to this. 6 and 7. Narada Muni continued, when Prahlada Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization and devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlada's word, and he laughingly said, thus is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of the enemy. And Hiranyakashipu, so no, he didn't think too much of it. He said, oh, someone's been, he's been hearing the wrong thing from someone. Hiranyakashipu advised his assistants, my dear demons, give complete protection to this boy at the Gurukula where he is instructed, so that his intelligence will not be further influenced by Vaishnavas who may go there in disguise. So he's thinking, bad association on the playground or something, You watch your kids when they go to school, right? They're just like, wait a second, where'd you learn that? That word. Where'd you learn this or that? It's like, so you watch. So he was thinking, okay, someone's probably, telling him a few things. So just watch him very carefully. I don't want my son spoiled like that. So he goes to school, and 7.5.20. You see here. Okay. So this is the second. So they sent him back to school, try it again. And of course his teachers got all upset with him and everything like that. But anyways, so there's another time. After some time, they thought, okay, Prahlada Maharaj he's in a good enough state of consciousness, demoniac consciousness, to be presented to his father again. We got it out of him, So this is number 2. This is 5, text 20 through 22. When Hiranyakashipu saw that his child had fallen at his feet and was offering obeisances, as an affectionate father, he immediately began showering blessings upon the child and embraced him with both arms. A father naturally feels happy to embrace his son, and Hiranyakashipu became very happy in this way. He said, oh, this is wonderful. Narada Muni continued, my dear King Yudhisthira, Hiranyakashipu seated Prahlada Maharaj on his lap and began smelling his head with affectionate tears. So it moved him so much, he's actually crying through his drunken, coppery eyes. With affectionate tears gliding down from his eyes and moistening the child's smiling face, he spoke to his son as follows. What an emotional scene, right? Such fatherly affection, and the boy sitting there. Hiranyakashipu said, my dear Prahlada, we do a play just of this scene, just this scene. Who would be Prahlada Maharaj and who would be Hiranyakashipu? We need a small devotee and a big devotee, like that. So Hiranyakashipu said, my dear Prahlada, you could be Prahlada. We have to get you sitting on, who would be a good Hiranyakashipu in this room? Sitting on the lap. Okay. I remember my daughter Tulsi, when she was like 3 or 4, just barely speaking, she played Chittaketu's son, who sat up in the basket, started speaking. You're not this body. Like that little kid. So Hiranyakashipu said, my dear Prahlada, my dear son, O long-lived one, for so much time you've heard many things from your teacher. Now please repeat to me whatever you think is the best of knowledge. So this is the big home run verse. Prahlada Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 different types of paraphernalia, and offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So, okay, a little bit of time. Is this Prabhupada's longest purport? Is this Srila Prabhupada's longest purport? Yeah, in the Bhagavatam. Okay. So now his answer. So did he really appreciate this? Hiranyakashipu. After hearing these words of devotional service from the mouth of his son Prahlada, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry, his lips trembling. Have you been so angry your lips actually trembled? He spoke as follows to Sunda, the son of his guru, Shukracharya. "O unqualified and most heinous son of a Brahmana, you have disobeyed my order and taken shelter of the party of my enemies. You have taught this poor boy about devotional service. What is this nonsense?" So immediately he turned to the teachers, thinking, it must be your fault. He's just a kid. He's just a 5-year-old boy. What happened? He started chastising the teachers. And they said, no, we didn't say anything. We didn't do anything. I don't know what happened. So then the question came up, well, where did you learn all about this? And Prahlada Maharaj went into another series of verses about this. Yeah, let me just see here. Matir na Krishna, in other words, I just want to paraphrase this because of the time. He preached to his father about being addicted to sense enjoyment. Not a good thing to preach to a materialistic person about. Blind followers leading one person, just blindly in the material world. Not knowing that Vishnu is the goal of life. Nate Vishnu, Nate Vidu Swartakabdehi Vishnum. And that one should be taking shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu and smearing the dust of devotees on one's body. So he's just like one verse after the next, telling his father this. And his father's response, 5:33 and 38. So this was a big turning point in their relationship. And 33, after Prahlada Maharaj had spoken in this way and become silent, just wanted to see what his father accepted the teachings, Hiranyakashipu, blinded by anger, threw him off his lap. Imagine that, little boy just threw him off his lap and onto the ground. He's really upset. Indignant and angry, his reddish eyes like molten copper, Hiranyakashipu said to his servants, "O demons, take this boy away from me. He deserves to be killed. Kill him as soon as possible. This boy, Prahlada, is a killer of my brother, for he has given up his family to engage in the devotional service of the enemy, Lord Vishnu, like a menial servant. Although Prahlada is only 5 years old, even at this young age, he has given up his affectionate relationship with his father and mother. Therefore, he is certainly untrustworthy. Indeed, it is not at all believable that he will behave well toward Vishnu." And anyways, he says he's got to be killed. And take him away and try to kill him. So what's described here is this is when they actually started different ways of trying to kill him. Now it'll be discussed maybe this evening when the pastime is getting into details, but so many different ways they tried to kill him and nothing happened. No weapons, no snakes, no elephants, no throwing off a cliff, nothing, boiling oil, nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. And after this, the teacher said, well, let's try again. After all that, so let's try again. And so he said, okay, send him back to school. Let's try it again. So now we're on the third confrontation between Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada Maharaj. This is chapter 8, text 2. Chapter 8, text 2. 8, text 2. Okay. 2 through 7. When Sunda and Namarka, the sons of Shukracharya, observed that all the what happened was he got caught preaching. He got busted on Sankirtan. He got busted. He went back to school, but he didn't just like sit around. He was fired up. He started preaching, and what happened was they started becoming devotees. It's one thing you got one devotee, but what happens when you turn everyone else into devotees? What a situation. So, and it's the king's son, the big demon, it's his son causing all the problems. Because you can be sure these children, their parents are all upset. They want their kids to grow up to be demons too. So what's going on here? So he got busted. The teachers came back early from lunch one day and saw him having a kirtan and everyone's preaching and chanting Hare Krishna. So they're very, very upset. So what did they do? The teachers observed that all the students, sons of the demons, were becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness because of the association of Prahlada Maharaj, and they were afraid. They approached the king of the demons and described the situation as it was. When Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extremely angry, so much so that his body trembled. Thus, he finally decided to kill his son Prahlada. Hiranyakashipu was by nature very cruel, and feeling insulted, he began hissing like a snake trampled upon by someone's foot. Has anyone ever seen a snake hiss? Scary. His son Prahlada was peaceful. You can ask Mahabharata about it. I won't tell you the pastimes of Mahabharata. Snakes hissing. His son Prahlada was peaceful, mild, and gentle. His senses were under control, and he stood before Hiranyakashipu with folded hands. According to Prahlada's age and behavior, he was not to be chastised, yet with staring, crooked eyes. Have you ever been so angry your eyes went crooked? Try that. Crooked. Yeah, like that. So angry your eyes go crooked. Hiranyakashipu rebuked him with the following harsh words. Let me see here. Hiranyakashipu said, O most impudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you, and therefore you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. My son Prahlada, O my son Prahlada, this is text 6, you rascal, you know that when I am angry, all the planets of the three worlds tremble along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? Prahlada Maharaj said, my dear king, the source of my strength, of which you are asking, is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength, whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior. Everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the personality of Godhead. So that's it. That was the last straw. So what happens now is the whole confrontation about where is God. He's in the pillar. Hiranyakashipu challenges him, and then Lord Nrsingadev appears. I've got a few minutes here. Okay. So the whole pastime. Let me see what we got here. We have time to do that. 6. And, after this pastime, Lord Nrsingadev appears, and Hiranyakashipu is obviously finished on a certain level. But the 10th chapter, chapter 10, verses 15 through 17. Chapter 10, 15 through 17, is that right? This brings out another quality in Prahlada Maharaj. After such an intense experience, his father tried to kill him, and Lord Nrsingadev saved him. And during all the prayers being offered by Prahlada Maharaj, Lord Nrsingadev kept asking me, please ask for some benediction, some kind of benediction. I'd like to give you something, some kind of benediction. He kept refusing and refusing. Then finally Prahlada Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you are so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him, but because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all living beings, and committed heavily sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. So that was on Prahlada Maharaj's mind. That one person who had so much enmity and hate for him, just because he was a devotee, he asked that he be delivered. So this is the depth of compassion and Krishna consciousness that Prahlada Maharaj demonstrated. And I think just one last point I mentioned I'd like to bring up is that the quality of fearlessness and fearfulness, the basic principle of material existence is fearfulness, right? At any moment, fear can enter our hearts. Why is that? Because we're trying to become permanent in this impermanent world. It's unnatural. And we really don't know what's going to happen next. So all of a sudden there's a big noise. And, the fearfulness is there. It's a basic principle of motivating every single living entity from an insignificant ant to Lord Brahma. In fact, Brahma approached Hiranyakashipu. The demigods told him that, he's trying to take your post. You better do something about it. He's performing all these austerities and so on, only to take your post, so you better do something. So he's saying, I better do something. So he went and saw him and said, what can I get you and all that? He said, I want to be immortal. And he gave him all those different benedictions because he was fearful that this person could actually take my post. And there's one biography written by Rupa Vilas Prabhu, No More Fear, right? And that's he asked Prabhupada a question about what is it like to be Krishna conscious, or what does it mean to be Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, no, you have no more fear. You're just not afraid because you're always feeling the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prahlada Maharaj, we read earlier, even before the confrontation, he was always feeling Krishna's presence. So what's there to be afraid of when your Krishna's always there? And during the whole episode and going back and forth, he was always feeling Krishna's protection and he was completely free from fear. So, and Hiranyakashipu was afraid. Big demon, big facade, but he was afraid. He was, of course, afraid of Vishnu. He was afraid of even Prahlada. He was afraid of Prahlada. He couldn't understand this person, this little boy, is actually more powerful than me. He's afraid. So, as far as Prahlada Maharaj, there's two verses I'd like to read, 7.5. 46. 7.5.46. 7.5.46. Got it marked here. 46 and 47. So it says, although he was very near to me and is merely a child. Oh, this is Hiranyakashipu speaking about Prahlada. He said, although he is very near to me and is merely a child, he is situated in complete fearlessness. He resembles a dog's curved tail, which can never be straightened because he never forgets my misbehavior and his connection with his master Lord Vishnu. So no matter what he did to Prahlada, just like no matter what you do to a dog's curved tail, doink, it comes back up. So no matter what he did, he was always completely fearless. Completely fearless. 47. I can see that this boy's strength is unlimited. He has not feared any of my punishments. He appears immortal. Therefore, because of my enmity toward him, I shall die. Or maybe this will not take place. He's a little hopeful there. So, and then, but, it says Prahlada Maharaj is completely fearless, but there is one verse here about what he feared, and that's 10:2. Prahlada Maharaj said, my dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because I was born in an atheistic family, I am naturally attached to material enjoyment, therefore kindly do not tempt me with these illusions. So he's trying to give him benedictions. This is what he's afraid of. I am very much afraid of material conditions, and I desire to be liberated from materialistic life. It is for this reason that I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. So devotees aren't foolish. Material nature, a little fearful. A healthy fear. So Prabhupada said that about American devotees or in general, we're not afraid of Maya, right? So you're going to be afraid. Fear is good. It's a good thing if you fear the right thing. So we should be afraid of Maya. And then 7.9.43 is the last verse. 7.9.43. Let me bring that up. Because Prahlada Maharaj On one hand, there's a famous verse, he's not fearless. He is no afraid. He says, "O best of great personalities, I'm not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My only concern is for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I'm simply concerned with love for them." So although he said this material existence is fearful, for a devotee always absorbed in Krishna consciousness, he's not afraid because he's always chanting and hearing and associating with Krishna. So anyways, that's, tell him what you told him. I just wanted to elaborate on this tension between the greatest devotee and the greatest demon. When Krishna does something, he does it in a very big way. So this pastime is Hiranyakashipu, he got one of his devotees to play the part of the biggest demon ever, and then his devotee, Prahlada Maharaj, is the greatest devotee ever, and then what happens when the two of them come together, and how the Lord is involved also, and he always protects his devotees. He always protects his devotees. And even, so that's the theme of today's readings. All glories to Prahlada Maharaj. All glories to Lord Narasimha Dev. We can end here.